Thursday, the 25th of July. I am Bosun number 5. This is your Frontier Opening Bell. Let's just get started. The global stock market fell. Wall Street fell $1 trillion yesterday. It was a big wipeout for stock markets, not just in the US, but across a number of jurisdictions. And I got a bit of a whiff of that across Frontier Africa on Wednesday. You just look at the markets, the Nigerian market, after looking for direction over the last couple of sessions since late last week, the market bucked by 0.12% on Wednesday. The GSE, which has the one of the strongest correlation with the rest of the developed and emerging markets, globally speaking, fell by 14 basis points. The Egyptian stock market, very big to the north of the continent, big exposure to the global marketplace, including the Middle East, fell 0.36%. The BRVM in Cote d'Ivoire managed to escape that rout yesterday by 0.57%, when we saw the shares of Société Générale and a few others also climbed on the French-speaking West African bourse. The Nairobi stock market also lost 0.77%. Even the rally that we saw since the start of the month on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange took a halt yesterday. The ZSC index also declined. So the market yesterday was a very bloody Wednesday for the global stock market. The dollar index fell as well. Oil prices, of course, climbed very strongly. We saw the London Brent up roughly now up about 5.5% since the year started, and the US WTI up around 8%. Let's take it from there and take up the big stories headline in East Africa. President Ruto is now being described as what you call the king of getting everybody together. In other words, building a new coalition of opposition and rejigging the cabinet and trying to get everyone to step back from the barricades, as it were. The youths are still protesting. News coming through this morning that some folks have taken the president and the vice president to court, asking both of them to resign. About nearly 20 signatories are reportedly doing that at the moment. It's a very tough time for the administration in Kenya as we speak. In the meantime, foreign expatriates are taking about money out of Kenya, 87 billion shillings at the last count, while the protest is also hurting digital lenders because the youths who use the digital platforms are on the streets protesting. Many of them are not at work. So that's hurting lenders because they can't get the credit they've extended, and it's difficult to book new ones. In the meantime, the Kenya Airports Authority says it has confirmed investment proposal for the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. That's coming from Adani Holdings, Airport Holdings. That will help see some measure of renovation or whatever of the Kenyatta International Airports. Those images that you saw a couple of months ago with flooding of the airports and all that is not good for the image of Kenya and the airports, by the way. And Tanzania says total passenger throughput at its airports last year was 3.8 million individual. And while Rwanda's as flagged off yesterday, the country's prime minister flagged off the Injange milk a powder plant, not a power plant, that's a powder plant. It's a milk plant, by the way, which is about $54 million investments to cut imports of milk into the landlocked East African economy. And the Faulu Microfinance Bank of Kenya has floated a money market fund. You just want to check that out and see what they're offering you in terms of returns. And Glencore has launched a food and financial inclusion program in DR Congo. Those are your headlines from that region at this time. Let's take it further and look into West Africa. Nigeria's Senate yesterday approved the amendment to the Finance Act sent to the Upper Legislative House a few days ago, or last week to be more precise, by Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That Finance Act was to ask banks to step forward 50% of the profits they made on foreign exchange devaluation last year. The Senate took that from Mr. President, raised the 50% to 70%. And just as that was being signed on and gazetted, the Moody's ratings, one of the top three international rating agencies, warns Nigerian authorities to step back from such decision. Says it will be credit negative for Nigerian banks. It will hurt their profit, their capital threshold, and a couple of other things. You got to read that up. It's the latest commentary. That commentary yesterday from Moody's had also been amended overnight from one of the vice presidents of Moody's, issuing a statement overnight concerning the raising of the 50% to 70%. But let's look at that. GCR ratings from South Africa has raised Dangote Cement's AA plus Nigeria issuer ratings and keep the outlook positive on the cement giant operating not just in Nigeria but across a number of African frontiers. And in terms of sextortion, Facebook announced that about 56,000 Nigerian accounts have been taken off from Facebook because they were extorting using sex, law, romance, whatever it is, to extort monies from folks around the world, in particular the United States. The director of the FBI was in Nigeria recently to meet with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And one of the comments he made was that the level of suicides relating to sextortion is rising in the United States. Quite a very bad taste there for Nigeria. And Ghana will need $12 billion in investment over the next 3 years for economic growth. Yesterday, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Adam, presented the reviewed budget for this year before the Parliament. It was a half-year review. He reviewed the document. The presentation include holding the 15% target on inflation for the current year, however, raising slightly upward the economic growth target from 2.8% to 3.1%. You can read up the details, by the way. And you got Liberia reporting 11% growth in its tax revenue in the first quarter, January to March. The figures are 163.4 million US dollars. Let's get into Southern Africa and just grab a few things for you as we get to Thursday. And again, we're looking towards the end of the week. South Africa's inflation dropped to 5.1% from slight drop. 5.2% in May, 5.1% in June. That rate cuts on the horizon now by the SARB. That is expected to happen between July and September, but let's see what happens with Leseja Kenyango and the rest of this monetary policy 6-member committee. Morgan Stanley is tipping South Africa's stocks to beat cash and bonds in the near term, while US digital bank Mercury is closing accounts in 37 countries. And this, of course, is expected to have impact on at least 11 African countries where you have startups, by the way. Malawi's Kwacha investigations has revealed what are called a currency syndicate from Malawi traced to Zambia. And the authority says they've seized quite a pile of cash in that investigation. And finally, Africa is offering about $19.3 billion opportunity if you want to do renewables. And that's according to a new study. Let's finish off in North Africa. This Thursday, the 25th of July, Egypt is targeting $5 billion in Indian investments into the country by the year 2027, while the central bank has withdrawn about roughly 1 trillion Egyptian pounds from banks at 27.75% interest. The whole idea is to contain money supply and use that monetary tool to contain a bit of inflation. Hawk Telecom, listed on the Casablanca Stock Exchange, reported 5.1% growth in its customer base for the first quarter, while Moroccan airports received more than 15 million passengers as at the end of June. And those are your headlines. Stays Thursday, 25th of July. I'm boosting number 5. Have a great day, everyone. And of course, I'll see you back on tomorrow, Friday.